How do you encourage parents and kids alike? Well, the Martha O'Bryan Center knows how. They do both of those things and so much more. And we are so delighted to have on the program today President and CEO Marsha Edwards. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And also the director of Tied Together, which is a program over there at Martha O'Bryan Center, Miss Cheryl Horton. Thanks for taking the time, ladies, to be with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For those folks who might not be as familiar, everyone probably has heard Martha O'Bryan Center because you all do such tremendous work here in the city. But for those who don't know much about your past, can you kind of give us an idea about your involvement in the community?
Well, Martha O'Bryan Center we're sort of an old lady in this town. We're 120 years this year. We have been in East Nashville for the last 60 years. We are a cradle to career organization, so we have programs for young children, young families, as well as older adults and people who are moving on to college and greater careers. We're located in public housing in the James Casey homes.
As I mentioned, we're talking about encouraging parents and kids. You all have a lot of great programs over there, just as you were mentioning, Ms. Edwards, and one of them called Tied Together. If you don't mind, Cheryl, tell us what that is.
So Tied Together is a 10-week parent education program where we really focus in on encouraging, educating, and empowering our families just to just strengthen the family units.
What types of families are attending or taking advantage of a program like this?
Well, I think our families vary in age. Some of them are very new parents, and some of them are parents are of older children, as well as we have aunts, uncles, grandparents, just anyone who's helped in the system raising the family.
So it's open to the community. Anyone can come.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, yes.
All right. Tell us the importance, if you don't mind, Cheryl, and please, you as well, Marsha, join in on this answer as well. Why family education is so important, especially in this day and age.
Yes. Well, family education is the first education that children receive. So I think that sets the precedence of their future success.
And what we think is really important is that families, families live in communities, and so we really think it's very important that families learn together, and so we really emphasize a lot of times people that live in public housing or in low-income communities, they don't have a lot of family to rely on, and so the class becomes a very close-knit family, and because they're all kind of dealing with the same things. They're trying to be great parents to very young children under the age of 5. Sure. And we really believe that it's very, very important that families are thinking about all the developmental issues well before school time.
You know, a lot of families, well, whether or not they know this exists or not, might have a little, they might be nervous about trying to put themselves out there and be vulnerable and say, listen, I would like some support, I would like this education, I would like this help. Do you find yourselves, extending that word in a certain way and getting out the message a certain way? Or do you find the families that have already taken advantage of programs like this kind of, bringing other families in as well?
I think we experience both. I think, coming to a new environment, maybe they're not familiar with the Martha O'Bryan Center. Perhaps that Tied Together is their first stop on the highway of services that Martha O'Bryan provides. And I think it's just how you even come at them. They are the expert on their children. They know their children best. We have a certain expertise, but if they are the experts on their children, and just even speaking with them from that paradigm is something that's very relaxing to them.
One thing I will say about Cheryl and her team is that it's a very joyful experience. People don't come there because, they're not good parents. They come because they want to be better parents, like all of us do.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what you're offering.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that encouragement, like we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Let's talk also about specific parenting tips that you all discuss and how you go about doing that.
So one thing that we do, we always want to focus on reading. Reading is so important. Books tell stories that sometimes parents can be afraid to talk about, right? And so what a wonderful way to really bring your topics to life, if you will. We speak about brain development because it's so important for parents to be to understand that brain development begins in the womb.
Yes.
And we also speak about healthy eating habits. We talk about some appropriate ways to discipline our children because we understand they have behaviors that they need some modification, right? So, and then we do it in a fun and loving way. We invite experts to speak about specific topics, and we really help families to understand that it's so important to nurture your family, but it's important to nurture yourself first, because you can't give a child what you don't have to give them.
So well said. You know, obviously you all are seeing parents who have children, you know, a family already in place. But then
Yes.
you also, you know, have lots of conversations and share your wisdom with families who are just starting and moms who are
Yes.
pregnant.
Right.
I find it's terrific that the Tied Together program also talks about and addresses infant mortality.
Absolutely. We always want to have families understand the safe sleep, which is the ABCs of sleep, alone, on their back, in a crib. And that might be a message that might be their first time hearing. And we really want them to understand the importance of that, because these are deaths that don't need to happen. If we have one too many.
Sure. Obviously, programs like this set certain goals.
Yes.
If you can kind of tell us what some of those goals are and if you've been able to reach them as well.
I think one of our biggest goals is school readiness. You know, education starts in the home, and the more prepared children are, the earlier they are prepared, the better they will be for school. And so I think that's one of our primary goals.
I think, you know, we don't want to see families be disrupted because families aren't equipped to be the best parents they can be. And so a lot of the conversation around discipline and other things like that are really about just educating people about what is appropriate and strategies to deal with children when you are tried, shall we say. So I think we do not want to see disruption in the family. I think one of the things I think that is so powerful is that they have this opportunity to sit for an hour with a pediatrician. Now, I don't know, when my babies were small, sometimes I left the doctor's office and I didn't have the answer I needed.
Yes.
And so one of the things that's really valuable about this is the way that Tied Together brings experts, nutritionists, librarians, physicians, Department of Children's Services.
That's right, yeah.
Into that conversation in a very non-threatening way, and people can just ask what they really need to know.
Yes, and that's so important. Like you said, you don't really get that anywhere else. Even when you make that appointment or whatever, they just don't have that time.
Right, and I think it's also so important when you're asking to go to a different, or you know, the Department of Human Services, for instance, it's good to see a representative there in your community instead of you having to go out, so you can get all the questions and get a good understanding of what the services are.
If you all could offer up some advice to all of our parents who are watching today, this program, what would that be in terms of what you believe to be most important from your perspective?
I think reading to your child at the earliest age is so very valuable. And children learn best through play. Get on the floor with them and play. That's how they're learning, and that bonding and that nurturing is so very important.
And I would just say, and we say this all the time, but parents truly are the first teachers. So as the teacher, just try to gather as much information as you can and surround yourself with other people who are really engaged in that conversation. You will find them in every neighborhood, people who are really engaged in trying to do the very, very best for their children, no matter what their resources.
Oh, excuse me. The Martha O'Bryan Center obviously is doing some amazing work. What would you like to see, if any other additional program come aboard or what you're working on? And I just ask you to point out something quickly if you don't mind.
Well, there's been a request in the community. We have over 350 graduate families. There's been a request that we do a kind of still tied together, which is an adolescent parenting, because that becomes the other kind of tight space for parents is adolescence and what to do with it.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, continued success, ladies. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.